Welcome to the High Value Masterclass, everyone. We are a little bit late. I have a few technical difficulties this morning, but I think we are all good. I'll just give it a quick look here. But today we're going to talk about transforming your love life by becoming the best version of yourself with the intention of being in the dreamiest relationship. And I add that last bit because so many women work on themselves, but they stay single or they can't seem to make it work in their current marriage or relationship because they forget to factor in the other person, or in this case, their partners. So hello, beautiful souls. My name is Mireille Nicole, and I'm a relationship coach for high achieving women, high value women who want to live their best life. Having said that, I want you to know that you are a high value woman, right? We all are high value women. It just might not feel that way for you right now. So this masterclass is about bringing it out of you because so many experiences and situations can happen to us in our daily lives and we forget or we stop acting as our high value selves. We maybe start taking on habits and repeating patterns that aren't truly who we are. So don't think my work is not for you if you don't feel quite high value right now, because it is, and we're going to start shifting that belief in you today. So, by the way, if you know anyone that might benefit from today's masterclass, please tag a friend so we can all show up as the best version of ourselves and have our happily ever after. I'm seeing a Facebook message here, so let me just go fix that, and we will be on our way. Oh my gosh, hopefully everything works out from now on, but at least it seems like we are live. So if you're watching live, say hello. Let me know you are here. Let me know the tech is working okay. If you're catching the replay, comment #replay. And if you're quietly watching, that is awesome. I do that all the time. So who is this masterclass for today? So today's masterclass is for you if you're dating, but you're not attracting the right men. I decided not to run the Feminine Power Workshop Dating Edition because essentially this is what we're going to talk about today anyways. When you are being your high value self on the dating scene and in a relationship, you are being in feminine power. So essentially it's all one and the same. So today's masterclass is also for you if you're dating someone, but you're not getting that commitment from your partner. And if you're in a committed relationship, you'll also want to stick around for today's masterclass. And this is also for you if you're married and you know it could be or should be better in your relationship. So this is going to benefit all of us women. So stick around, because maybe you're in a relationship right now and it kind of feels mundane or boring. Maybe it feels like you're losing the spark, or maybe you're feeling insecure for whatever reason. This is going to help you. And it's going to be helpful today, especially if you consider yourself a high achieving, health conscious, and goal oriented woman that wants more. If this is you, we are definitely going to jive. All right, so I have a message again. Give me 1 second here. All right, so let me give you some context for this masterclass. All right, so I'm going to start off by giving you the context as to like why I'm talking about this topic and why it's important. First off, like I said before, your relationship status is going to be irrelevant here because it's going to be about making your love life go from good to great. And no matter where you are, that's going to be helpful to you, okay? And maybe, like I said earlier, if you're dating, maybe you're meeting men, it just never seems to work out. Like, sure, it could be that you're not the right match, but I also want to invite you to check and see if you're actually being high value. If you're married and it feels like the honeymoon phase is long gone, sure, there could be other factors at play, but I want to invite you to check in again and see if you're being high value, because I personally believe the honeymoon phase is supposed to last forever. And like I said, if you're in a relationship, but you're not getting that commitment or you're feeling insecure, again, there could be a few factors at play here, but I want to invite you to check in and see if you're being high value. Have I drilled that in your head enough yet? So let me share a personal story with you. In 2014, I started dating my husband, and I was feeling quite high value at the time, right? And like many of us do at the beginning of a relationship, I was focused on making a good impression and putting my best foot forward. My vibe was high. So for the first 3 years, I experienced the benefits of being a high value woman. I was feeling cherished by my dream man. He was making grand gestures towards me, and I was living that fairy tale I had dreamed of as a little girl. The problem is I was doing this completely unconsciously and with zero knowledge of what it meant to be a high value woman. I was just winging it, quote unquote, being myself, right? And what happened is years 4 to 6 in my relationship, things started to go downhill. And I didn't realize I had been, being high value in the beginning. So I didn't even realize that along the way, I stopped being high value. And this lack of awareness and knowledge put us on shaky ground as a couple. And instead of being high value, I started becoming needy and insecure and resentful and frustrated. And I had stopped doing a lot of the things I liked doing because I was just focused now on our family, the stresses of daily life, and especially what felt like a crumbling relationship. So we weren't communicating as well as we used to, and we argued a lot. I was scared. I was frustrated. Like I said, I was feeling resentful, and I was even feeling uncertain about our future together. And the whole vibe had changed, and for some reason, I could just not pinpoint why this was happening, right? Other than I could pinpoint all the things my husband or my boyfriend at the time was doing that I wished he changed. So in 2020, I actually reached my breaking point in the relationship. My husband and I were having an argument, and at one point he said to me, "You're being crazy." And that moment hit me like a ton of bricks. I did not recognize myself in the moment. I had this pivotal moment of self-reflection. And instead of being even more upset because he said that, I thought, what is going on between us that would even make him consider saying something like that? And it hit me so hard because I was actually feeling like I was going crazy. Like if he had said any other word, like if he had said, you're being mean, you're being unreasonable, even like the B word or something, right? Like that wouldn't have hit me like it hit me in that moment because I literally felt like I was going crazy, right? Like I was losing my mind. I didn't know what was going on. My emotions were all over the place. In my mind, I was trying all of these things to make my relationship better. I suggested couples therapy, but he wasn't open to that. And I'm so happy we didn't go that route, but that's a whole other video. But, I was trying to communicate more, and I was sharing all my thoughts and my feelings with like zero intention or discernment. And then I tried being nice. I tried being mean. I tried being passive aggressive. I tried being dramatic. I tried, like hoping and praying that things changed, but nothing worked. I was just literally driving myself like insane. So that is the moment that I discovered my role in the relationship. And that's the moment I actually totally started owning it, like with pride, by the way. Like at that moment, when I heard that word and just like the whole scenario that played out, I decided I was going to stop figuring out on my own, right? Obviously, it wasn't working. I was driving myself crazy, and it was just hurting us as a couple even more. So I decided I was going to go get the best advice by the most reliable and embodied sources on relationships. And you know what? I got excited about it. Like I had figured out, I figured at that point that I had nothing else to lose because I was already like going crazy, right? It could only get better. And guess what? It did. All right. It did start getting a lot better as soon as I started, getting back to my high value self. So for you dating ladies, let this resonate with you because at the time I was just dating my husband and there was no proposal in sight. And for you committed ladies, let this resonate because I had been dating my husband for over 6 years. So it was quite the long-term relationship. Today, I'm going to share with you the first steps I took from feeling like I was going crazy in my relationship and everything was falling apart to getting back to that fairy tale and feeling high value, being high value, right? To getting back to a place even better than the honeymoon. I always talk about the honeymoon phase, but even better than that. And what it took was the identity shift, right? Asking myself, what is it like to be around me? What's my vibe? Then being really intentional about my energy, All right. So the focus of this masterclass is going to be on who am I being, right? That's creating the vibe in my love life, right? Who am I being in my dating life, on the dating scene? Who am I being in my marriage or in my long-term relationship? Okay. It's about the identity. Okay, so whatever you believe about yourself and you put out there in the world, into your relationship, into your dating life, that's what dictates your experience. And I want you to consider that from an empowerment perspective, right? Not like shaming yourself or feeling down or feeling bad about yourself, because in case, if you're not doing that right now, this is an opportunity for you. And, if luckily for you, you haven't reached your breaking point like I did, I want to help you avoid that scenario. And if you're feeling like in it right now, I want you to find hope again, that there is hope to get out of it, right? And you can turn things around. So my goal for today is to share with you what it means to be high value and share 5 traits plus a bonus trait that you can start embodying today. Because there's a high value woman in all of us, and I want to help you bring her out of you. And by the way, if you'd like extra support with this after the masterclass, just DM me high value. I have a private coaching spot that is opening up, or if you prefer doing the work with a group of women, I have my new program called Aphrodite that is launching very soon. So what does it mean to be high value? Let's start with a definition of a high value woman. So this is actually based on the first definition that came up in Google from WikiHow, and I thought it was awesome and so aligned with how I would describe it, and it really highlights the key traits. And here's what it said. A high-value woman has high self-esteem, knows her worth, stands up for herself, embraces her femininity, and possesses, wow, I can't even say that word, a high level of emotional intelligence. And I could not have said it better myself. So these traits aren't just buzzwords. They are like the pillars that will elevate your relationships, whether you're dating, married, or anywhere in between. And I'm going to add a 6th trait and add my flavor here. A high value woman to me also takes responsibility for herself, for her life, and for her relationships. So we're going to talk about that too. By the way, I already have a ton of videos on my YouTube channel on these individual traits. So go check out at Mireille Nicole Coaching on YouTube. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't. And at the end of this masterclass, if you want, you can go binge on those videos and learn even more on your own. Why be high value? Okay, and what happens when you're not being your high value self? Before I dive deeper into the 6 high value traits, let's talk about why it's important to be high value. Why would you want to be that way? And what happens when you're not? First and foremost, being a high value woman means you don't lose yourself in your relationship. So if you've been divorced like me, you'll definitely know what I mean here. Or this might even land with you if you find yourself hopping from one relationship to another, or if you've been in a relationship a really long time, you might start losing your sense of self. It can also happen to us women when we become mothers. We can start losing truly who we are in love, right? We're prioritizing our kids and the family. But the thing is, when you prioritize your own passions and that sense of self that you have, you bring that vibrance and authentic energy into the relationship. And that's what keeps the spark alive, or the flame going, I like to say. It's not just beneficial to you. It just keeps your partner magnetized to the person they fell in love with, the genuine you. So when you're a high value woman, you attract the right partner. This doesn't mean that you're trying to change yourself to fit someone else's idea of perfection, of course. It just means you're grounded in who you are, and you naturally draw in people who appreciate and resonate with your true self. And this authenticity is what forms the foundation for a healthy, fulfilling relationship, which is what we all want, right? And let's face it, all the skills in the world won't matter if they're not aligned with your true self. And I've noticed working with women, if you're not in your high value energy, you won't be as likely to actually use the skills for very long for them to, see results anyways. Let's talk a little bit about what, being being high value is not about, because there are a lot of misconceptions out there about what it means to be a high value woman. And, it's not always, well, I should say, I do not always agree with that definition. So first and foremost, being high value is not about being someone you're not. Authenticity, like I said, is key here. It's not about adopting a persona or imitating someone else's success. It's about uncovering and nurturing the best version of yourself, not fabricating a version that doesn't fit you. I'm actually in a high value women's Facebook group, and it's obvious there's a sentiment among lots of the ladies in there that high value is also related to appearances and money. And I just want to offer up here that that's not necessarily true. And well, we're going to debunk that today, right? In the master class. So secondly, being high value is not about being fake or manipulative. This is crucial. High value does not mean putting on a show or playing mind games with your partner. It's actually about being genuine and being respectful and being kind. You know what? Like manipulation and pretense will only erode trust and undermine the genuine connection you want to build with a man anyways, right? It's not going to last very long. You're probably not going to get away with it. It's really about anchoring in and tuning into who you truly are. So enough with the fluff, enough with the intros. Let's talk about these 5 traits plus my bonus number 6. So trait number 1 is going to be, self-esteem. As I do more of these, I imagine my handwriting is going to get much better. So a high value woman has high self-esteem, and self-esteem is the foundation of how you see yourself and how you project that image to the world. And my favorite definition of self-esteem is from John Gray, the author of Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. I love that relationship book. It was like a trend, was it like in the 90s or something? It was like super popular, but it's got some great insights in there. And I was actually listening to a podcast that John Gray was on, and he simply defined self-esteem and self-confidence as knowing you're going to be okay. And I thought that was just so simple, yet so profound and so powerful. And that couldn't be a more important belief to hold on to when you're dating. And also when you're in a relationship and you feel on shaky ground. This confidence is magnetic. And when you truly believe in yourself, you naturally draw in others who share this positive view of life that you have. And it not only affects how others perceive you, but also how you handle the challenges and even the triumphs in your relationship, right? So high self-esteem influences every interaction, making your relationship more fulfilling and just your life in general more balanced. Now, remember, building self-esteem is a gradual process, so don't, be too hard on yourself. If you do feel like right now self-esteem is something you struggle with, that is something that you work on constantly. And if I can offer a suggestion here or something you can start implementing today after this masterclass, is to really start by acknowledging your strengths, celebrating your achievements, no matter how small they may seem. All right, that's a great exercise of self-reflection. So, take out your journal, put 15 minutes aside to just journal of some of the things, you've accomplished in your life. What are some of these big challenges that you've overcome where now you see at the end of the day, you're okay. You made it through and you're actually stronger for it. All right. And most importantly, when you're dating, right, and even in a relationship, just when it comes to self-esteem, one thing I always recommend women do or not do in this case is never devalue yourself or self-deprecate. All right. So I had a client who was dating this guy and they were flirting by text. They were planning to see each other again soon. And she made some sort of joke about her appearance. She was just trying to be funny and show like the humorous side to her. But there was an awkward moment in the exchange because of this. All right. So just remember, you're like a goddess. You're awesome. So never ever self-deprecate, even if it's playful or simply meant, like I said, to showcase like a good sense of humor. All right. That's something you can do right now to really help you stay in your high value goddess self. So just small steps like this can significantly impact your perception of yourself over time. And like I said, high self-esteem isn't something that's going to happen overnight. And it's also not about becoming perfect. So don't put that pressure on yourself. It's really just about valuing yourself despite your imperfections. And like I said earlier, knowing that you're going to be okay. So it's really just about having the confidence or the confidence, and even the courage to go out there and experience life and just knowing that you're going to get through it, right? And embracing who you are while you do it so that you can project that, onto the world. Okay. And this is actually going to tie into our next trait, which is equally important for personal growth overall, right? And relationship success or dating success. So number 2, a high value woman knows her self-worth. So number 2, self-worth. Now, what do we mean by that? All right. So if you think of it in general, right, things that are high value in the world are rare and unique. And I know it sounds really cheesy to say that we are all rare and unique, but at the end of the day, we all are. We all are snowflakes, all right? And the high value woman knows this. And she also has a deep understanding that her value is intrinsic and not dependent on external validation, right? So not necessarily based on the response she's currently getting from the men she's meeting or necessarily from the response she's getting from her partner if they're on shaky ground right now, okay? So she's not seeking or needing that approval or affirmation from others because she already has validated herself. A high-value woman recognizes that a relationship should also be a complement to her life, not a necessity. So you're not looking for validation or self-worth from being with a man. She understands that a man is a bonus and a wonderful addition to her already fulfilling life. This mindset is going to be crucial because it shifts the focus from dependency. And I just did a whole live on YouTube with my relationship coach friend, Ellie, where we talked about emotional dependence, right? So when we have a higher level of self-worth, we can shift this dependency from just appreciating this other person that we have to share our life with, all right? Or looking for that person we want to share our life with. So like, for example, consider how powerful it is to say, I don't need my partner. I can support myself financially, emotionally, spiritually, physically, right? I want my partner in my life because I desire him. And this distinction is what's going to help maintain a healthy dynamic in the relationship where both partners contribute, right, to each other's happiness rather than depending on each other for their self-worth. And when you know your worth, you naturally attract partners who respect and appreciate you. All right. You're going to start seeing that happen more often. And the self-awareness is going to foster healthier, more fulfilling relationships where there's mutual respect and understanding, okay? And it's going to set the standard for how you expect to be treated when you have self-worth. And it's going to align you with people who share your values. So knowing your worth allows you to actually establish and maintain boundaries, that's a good tie-in for what we're going to talk about in number 3. And it's going to help you make choices in dating and relationships that reflect your values, all right? And engage in relationships that enhance your life rather than define it. Like I said, which leads us into trait number 3. A high-value woman stands up for herself, okay? I'm going to use the word boundaries here because we're going to say they're similar in this case. So the high-value woman stands up for herself, and this involves having strong boundaries and not settling for less than she deserves or desires, right? A high-value woman is clear about her needs, her expectations, and she's not afraid to communicate them. Standing up for yourself means being assertive, without being aggressive. So that's an important distinction here. It's about expressing your thoughts and your feelings openly and honestly, while also being respectful of others. And it's this kind of communication that's going to foster stronger, more authentic connections in your relationships. So for instance, if something is bothering you, a high value woman will address it directly rather than let it fester. And she will also articulate her boundaries and expectations in a loving yet firm manner, ensuring that her needs are understood and respected. So this is where there's a little bit of a I would say, a fine line here, where we want to make sure that our communication is clear and firm in the sense that, we don't feel wobbly with what we desire, and we can communicate it that way without making sound like, an order or a punishment, okay? We want to keep that softness, which ties into another trait we're going to talk about soon. All right. And also let me drink some water here because since my throat is dry and I'm talking really fast, but I feel like I always talk really fast. So let's take 2 here. All right. The other thing about boundaries and standing up for yourself is that boundaries are meant to be followed through on. All right. So you're not just stating what you want, but when it doesn't happen, okay, you actually follow through with what you set out for yourself and what you said you were going to do. So I actually have a lot of thoughts on boundaries. We're not going to go like super deep in boundaries today. I've talked a lot about boundaries in my Happily Ever After bootcamp and also on my YouTube channel. So like I said, you can go dive deep into those videos after the class today. But one of the important distinctions here, or one of the things to remember, is that there are internal boundaries and there are external boundaries. And internal boundaries are the ones that you set with yourself. So a lot of times I see, women talking about the boundaries that set, and usually they're external, right? They're setting boundaries and expressing them maybe with the men that they're dating, right? Or with their husband. A lot of the work I suggest you start working on, and they will have both will have a big, profound effect on how things turn out and what you experience in your love life. But when you really start focusing on your internal boundaries, that's also going to help build your confidence and, your self-esteem, like we talked about, and even your self-worth. And these are boundaries like, they can be even just standards for thoughts that you have in your mind, like if something happens and you default to thinking the worst when you're dating someone, or, someone ghosts you or takes a long time to text back, like what are you telling yourself in your head? What if you set a boundary with yourself that you weren't going to let that, ruin your day or make you feel anxious? Right? Those of you with an anxious attachment style, right? What if you set that boundary? That is a boundary. A boundary isn't always something necessarily with someone else, or that you have to express to someone else and get their involvement in, or whatever that looks like for you, okay? That is a boundary. I'm not gonna let myself freak out when my husband doesn't take out the trash when he was supposed to, and now I'm stuck doing it, right? I'm gonna set that boundary with myself that I'm not gonna let it freak me out. And that's not to say that you gloss over things, right? It doesn't mean that having strong boundaries means you're just going to tolerate bad behavior or settle for less, okay? It just means that you're not going to let yourself, and we'll talk a bit about this in another trait, right? Just let yourself get overly influenced by external circumstances, right? You have standards for yourself and how you want to show up. You are high value. You are high value. Tell yourself that. Just start with that after the class today. Keep telling yourself, I'm high value. All right? Having said that, having strong boundaries also means being willing to walk away from situations or people who don't respect them. Now, this is a lot of times when I talk about boundaries, especially external boundaries, is because you guys are far down in the relationship, or maybe the guy you're dating is just way far down the road, okay? At that point, if all else fails, you've got to be willing to, walk away, perhaps, depending on your situation, or take more drastic action. All right. But just make sure you're not confusing boundaries with control, right? Or punishment or ultimatums. Those are often confused. The high value woman can discern between all of that. Okay. And this strength and this clarity in standing up for yourself is going to be crucial for maintaining those healthy and fulfilling relationships. Okay. Or the ultimate one that you desire to have your happily ever after with. Okay. So it's not about confrontation, not about control, not about punishment. It's really about maintaining your integrity and staying true to your values at the end of the day. All right. So let's talk about number 4. So trait number 4. Are we still going to see? Okay, I have some room. Trait number 4, a high value woman embraces her femininity, okay, or her feminine energy. Feminine energy. Can I write this? Yes. I love talking about feminine energy, so let's talk about it. So this means being in touch with the qualities of intuition, nurturing, empathy, and also, most importantly, being open to receiving from life, and in this case, specifically from men. And these qualities are incredibly powerful and attractive to the men in your life. So many of us, especially high-achieving women that I work with lots of ambition in their careers or in their businesses, or in the corporate world, and also mothers, right? We can fall into masculine energy really quickly because that's kind of the vibe that we're in those worlds, right? And masculine energy is going to be about reaching goals and pushing for outcomes and getting results and managing and directing. And that's fine. But in the context of relationships, we want to be careful with that. So if this resonates with you, let me know in the comments. Do you feel like you're often, striving for things, trying to, hoping things will change and go a certain way, and really trying to kind of manage outcomes in your relationship, right? That was me. I will lift my hand right now. I will comment in my own comments. That was me. I totally fell into that category. And it's the same thing with mothering, right? Surprisingly, there's an important distinction between being nurturing and mothering. And nurturing is going to lean more towards being supportive and nourishing at various levels, whether it's physical, emotional, spiritual, whereas mothering is more about, making sure the day goes as planned, or that people are on time, and making sure the rules are followed. That's more masculine energy. So there's going to be more of a rigidity with mothering, and feminine is more about flow. And it's fine to have both. We all have both, men and women, because this is about energy. So let me clarify that. This is about energy, not about gender. All right. But in a relationship, you really want to pay attention to that energy, because when you have both, when both are effectively used, that's when you have the magnetism in the relationship, and that attraction and that polarity, which makes your relationship super delicious and gives you your happily ever after, which, if you follow my page, if you watch my videos, that is what you're after, right? So when it comes to love, and especially if you're dating and you desire a masculine man, being in your feminine is going to help you have that relationship that you dreamed of as a little girl. And embracing your femininity, by the way, doesn't mean that you're conforming to stereotypes. It's not being about, this new trad wife movement, right? If that's not what you envision yourself, that's fine. It doesn't mean you can't be feminine. And it's also not about being weak or submissive. A lot of women, especially high achieving women, and that was me, was scared that, if I start being more feminine, then I might be, perceived as a pushover or, a doormat or whatnot. But that's not true, because feminine energy traits are incredibly powerful, and they're actually going to add a lot of depth to your interactions as a couple. So really, if you don't feel emotionally connected to your partner right now, getting back into your feminine is really going to help him open up and bring down his walls so that you guys can connect more strongly. Okay. Get back to that place. And being more intuitive is going to allow you also to connect at a deeper level, while all these nurturing qualities that we talked about will help you build a more supportive and caring relationship. It's funny, maybe I'll post about this. I think I was gonna do a reel, because there was someone who was posting in a Facebook group about how she's struggling with her husband. Her husband gets angry a lot, and she wasn't sure like what to do, and I forget all the details of the post. I'm gonna do a reel about that. And anyway, so I commented. Everyone's giving all this advice, and I'm like, well, what does your husband, get angry about? And it turns out her husband would get angry because he felt that she wasn't. She didn't have his back, and sometimes there'd be in situations, and he'd get angry or upset with someone else, and she didn't agree that he was upset, and she kind of expressed that or whatnot. And you know what? And I get that would just foster the anger. I can just imagine, right? In the relationship. And it's interesting because her husband told her specifically, I don't feel like you have my back. Okay, so she knows exactly what the problem is. And she was saying, well, he's wrong and whatnot. And one of the important feminine trait qualities I want to anchor in with trait number 4, feminine energy, is when you're in your feminine energy, you can be, more supportive in your relationship, right? Okay, well, why is this person, what makes you upset at this person? What's going on? How can you support your husband? Sure, maybe he's right. Maybe he's wrong, right? Maybe he is, being angry for no reason at this other person or whoever it is, right? Maybe he is, but you're his partner. What if you were on his team? Even if you didn't agree with him, how can you be supportive? How can you show compassion in that moment? How can you show empathy? Right? All these feminine traits, which brings me to empathy, right? Being empathetic in your feminine energy enhances your ability to understand your partner and relate to the experiences that he's going through. And that's going to make him head over heels with you, right? How to get a man obsessed with you. Show him that you're on his side. Show him that you understand him, or that you're interested in understanding him. Okay, dating ladies, start doing that. Start doing that on your dates. Also, by embracing your femininity, you also set a standard for how you wish to be treated, okay? And you attract men who can step up to that. So you actually also benefit from being in your feminine energy. It's good for both of you. All right, so trait number 5. Let's talk about trait number 5, emotional intelligence. I love this. I love this topic. It's near and dear to my heart. I can't speak and write, so give me a second here. I am thinking actually of doing some sort of, well, let me know in the comments if this would be helpful. So I'm thinking of doing maybe some sort of PDF handout of this masterclass, something that you guys could download and keep, some sort of cheat sheet after with the different traits I'm talking about today. So if you think that would be useful, if you're yes, I would love that, I need that, let me know in the comments and I will put something together for you guys. All right. So the high value woman is also emotionally and relationally intelligent. I'm going to focus today on emotional intelligence, but that simply means, she works on her emotional regulation, and you're very intentional about the dynamic you contribute to the relationship when you're being a high value. All right. So this really involves understanding, managing your emotions, as well as recognizing and empathizing with the emotions of others. And this is what's going to really help you navigate your dating life and your relationships with grace and compassion. So I love to share that my husband and I are two extremely emotional beings. If you're into astrology, he's a Scorpio, I'm Cancer, we're both water signs. So there is a ton of depth in what we feel, and it comes and goes just like waves. All right. And my emotional intelligence, or lack thereof, at the time is definitely what contributed to that rough patch when I was dating my husband. And my favorite analogy, my husband rolls his eyes whenever I talk about the story of just this metaphor to help you understand emotional intelligence and what it's like when it's not regulated, is the story about the man and the horse. And I shared this in my live on YouTube yesterday. But basically the story goes, there's this man walking down this gravel path, and he can hear a horse galloping behind him, full speed. And the man turns around and sees another man or another person, could be a girl, let's say it's a girl, let's say it's a woman. She's on the horse. Yeah, let's make it a woman so we can relate, okay? And she's on the horse, and the horse is like galloping, going crazy down this gravel path, and the man's like, oh my God, turns around, and the man asks the woman, like, where are you going? And she says, I don't know, ask the horse. Okay, so a high value woman is aware of her feelings. She can identify them, she can label them, and she can manage them effectively, right? So in this analogy, in this example, she's not just letting the horse carry her away. And I'm not talking about a horse here, right? I'm talking about emotions. So she doesn't let her emotions carry her away. And this self-awareness, this work like on your emotions and understanding them is going to allow you to respond thoughtfully to situations rather than react impulsively. And I just know too well what that can do when you're dating someone, and even when you're in a long-term relationship. This is like forever work. And this is really the aspect of high value that I continue to work on the most. You'll see that some of these traits, you're going to be like, I've got this one nailed down. This one, not so much. Or this one is maybe more challenging for me, right? But being emotionally intelligent is going to enhance your ability to connect with a man on a deeper level. And it's going to help you resolve your conflicts with a lot more empathy and ease and grace and wisdom. And it's going to really help you build that lasting bond, all right? Or that happily ever after, like I always talk about. And the high value woman, she actually views her emotions as a superpower, right? Like something that can help guide her rather than as obstacles that can control her or derail her from her love life. Okay, so emotions are your superpower. Remember, emotions are your superpower as a woman. A high-value woman also doesn't let her emotions control her, which I kind of talked about already, right? She responds to life and love instead of reacting. Responding, reacting. Important distinction here when we're talking about emotional intelligence. Also, another important distinction for you to remember, observing emotions rather than absorbing emotions. All right. I have a ton of videos on emotional detachments, emotional regulation on my YouTube channel. So again, if you want to dive deeper after this and binge, go at Mireille Nicole Coaching on YouTube and go find that playlist. All right. So it's really important for you as a high value woman to really recognize and identify your emotional triggers and learning how to handle them constructively. So if you were in the Relationship Reset Challenge, and I make in most of my programs, I make women do this, right? On day one of the challenge, I had them go online and find a list of emotions, all right? So that during the day, they could journal and keep track of all the different emotions they felt to greaten their awareness and to identify what situations led to that particular emotion. Okay, so you can start learning what your triggers are, and then eventually, as you continue the work, how to handle them more constructively in love. All right. So like I said, this is an ongoing process, but at the end of the day, it's going to be very important and meaningful work because it's going to allow you to connect with your man on a deeper level and really build that bond. All right. By honoring your emotions and also those of others, you're going to create a foundation of trust and respect in your interactions with men. So that is the top 5 traits, or the 5 traits. Let's go in my bonus number 6 trait. Let's talk about that. So number 6 is going to be, what's it going to be? Is that the word? Well, let's put, radical responsibility. Radical responsibility. Okay, so she takes responsibility at the end of the day, okay? She takes radical self-responsibility for her actions and for her outcomes in love and in life in general. So this essentially means acknowledging your role in both the successes and also the challenges you face, and then actively working to improve them and grow, and removing the focus from the man so much and turning it inwards. And that's what I wanted to share with you and showcase for you that was like my biggest epiphany in my love life at the beginning when I shared my personal story, right? So it's really when I started taking radical self-responsibility in my love life, in my dating life, in, as I continue to do so in my marriage, that's when everything shifted. That's when my man totally changed, right? Like so many women come to me, oh, I wish he stopped doing this, or he's always doing that. The focus is all on the man. And, we say we don't want to change men or men can't change, but we do all these little things that, that's trying to change someone. Okay. But when you can shift that responsibility, not take the burden or take the blame, but when you can really start looking objectively at what is your role in the relationship? Like, what can I do? Okay. Like I shared, right? Like my husband and I, we didn't go to couples therapy, right? That wasn't an option. I love couples therapy. I think that's fantastic. If you guys both want to do it, do it. But recognize that there's also a lot of stuff that you can do yourself to help your relationship get back on track, improve and grow, and for you to really find that, that dream guy out there in the whole pool of, I'll keep it nice, but all the options out there, right? Find your perfect match. And removing that focus from the men so much, okay? And this is actually where you'll get the most clarity. So I'm not suggesting that you ignore red flags or tolerate bad behavior, like I said before, and just work on yourself and be oblivious to everything. But taking responsibility involves being honest with yourself about your actions. Are your actions high value and their impact on your life and on your relationships, right? In your relationships. It's about recognizing where you have control, right? And can make conscious choices to better your circumstances, and what areas can you not control, right? So for example, when we were dating, I noticed a significant change in how my husband respected me when I started, showing up differently in our relationship, when I started embodying these traits, right? And being high value. Like I said, couples therapy wasn't an option for us. And I'm so glad it wasn't, because it forced me to take radical responsibility. I became a force to be reckoned with in a good, attractive, and seductive way. And that's when my man came to realize that he wanted to no longer just date me, but to make that official till death do us part commitment with me, right? It was when I became high value and took that radical self-responsibility, that's when he popped the question. Okay. So now, actually, even to this day, whenever things feel off in my marriage, I figuratively look in the mirror and I ask myself, am I truly being high value these days? Where am I slacking off here in these different traits? Okay, so it's about embracing the power you have to influence your own destiny. And rather than blaming external factors or men in general for your situation, a high-value woman focuses on what she can do to affect positive change. And being responsible doesn't mean carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders. It just means taking ownership of your choices and your actions, right? I'm going to drill that into your head so you don't forget it. Another key takeaway. So it's really about understanding that you have the power to shape your life and your relationships through the decisions you make and the attitude that you adopt. That's what I mean by how you show up. What's your vibe like? Who are you being in love? It's all based on the decisions that you make and that attitude, that mindset that you keep, right? All right. So how do you feel now after hearing the 6 traits of a high value woman? What traits have you nailed down? Put in the comments below. And what traits, are areas for you to improve? If you're open to sharing what trait you feel drawn to focus on, let me know in the comments. I already shared mine. It's always the emotional intelligence piece. That's the one I'm always it could shift eventually. It could definitely shift, but that is definitely mine, because I am just super sensitive and emotional. And that is, listen to me talk, right? I'm still in that identity. This is identity work, right? And the work is never completely over. It's an evolution. It's a journey over your lifetime, and it gets to get better all the time. So if you would like support with this, you'll love my new program, Aphrodite, which is all about the energetics of being your goddess self in love. We do this high value work. We also dive into the emotional intelligence work and the feminine energy work and all of it, right? Plus my favorite work of all, which we haven't talked about, maybe I'll do a masterclass on that topic one day too, is teaching you to understand men. Because once you understand something, you're able to feel more powerful. Okay, when you really understand what's going on, you also get to be more compassionate and empathetic, and that's going to strengthen the connection and make you magnetic AF. If you want more personalized support, I also have 2 private coaching spots, so feel free to reach out to me to apply. And if you have any questions, right, I will answer them for you. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. I'll see you in the next masterclass. Take care.